Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I guess this very much depends on where you're joining us from today. Welcome to the Heinrich Dialogue 2021, live here from Støre Bibliothek, downtown Bude. We're sending live today. For the next 2.5 days, we're serving you a valuable, insightful, and first and foremost, interactive Heinrich Dialogue experience. My name is Andreas Raspotnik, and I'll be your host and the Heinrich Dialogue's very own brand recognition for the next 2.5 days. In my capacity as a host, I can unfortunately not welcome you here in person in Bude. We all know why, but we still managed to get a few people here at Støre. But be rest assured, we are all healthy, we are all tested, we are safe, some of us, I guess, even vaccinated, and we keep the distance. Before starting, however, I can guide you through the next few days of conference and give you some important points for us that we need to follow for our conference. First, how to understand the conference platform. You are now at the main stage. As you can see, it's a rather straightforward platform with a main stage, an option to join our breakout sessions, and another option to actually get in touch and network with all the conference participants. Second, how to ask questions. Although only participating digitally and online, you can of course ask questions to our panelists. In order to do so, just use the main chat function on our main stage. All your questions will be collected by our partner, the Arctic Institute, and then made available to the representative moderator of each session. Third, if you need any technical assistance, please reach out to my colleague at the Heinrich Center, Hanne. You can find his email on the conference webpage, heinrichdialogue.no. Fourth, very importantly, choose the High North Young Entrepreneur. Also this year, you as an audience have the chance to select the High North Young Entrepreneur. How? Check out the Expo option on our platform. There you will find the 3 nominees and their videos. Watch them and then vote. Voting is possible until tomorrow, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central European Time. And finally, don't forget to share the Arctic word. Share your thoughts. Follow our sessions and spread the word. Please do tweet, share and like, and don't forget to always use hashtag HND21. And if you want, and for people who have followed Arctic Frontiers earlier this year, of course you can always use the hashtag #WeLoveTheHost. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready to start the conference. To officially open this year's Heinrich Dialogue, please welcome the Director of the Heinrich Center for Business and Governance, Frode Mellemvik, and the Director of New University, Hanne Solheim Hansen. Hanne, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, President of the Sami Parliament, Your Excellencies, participants, welcome to the Heinrich Dialogue 2021. Nord University is proud to host the Heinrich Dialogue Conference with all its activities. The Heinrich Dialogue 2020 had to be cancelled because of the COVID restrictions. So we are very happy that we can arrange Heinrich Dialogue 2021, even though it's in a hybrid format. And only a few participants gathered here at the beautiful Støre Library. For all of you who are digitally connected from nearly all around the world, I hope that you one day have the chance to come and visit our wonderful university. The Heinrich Dialogue Conference is probably the Arctic conference with the lowest average age of the participants, as the conference focuses especially on master and PhD students and young people in their early career. Even now, in these pandemic times, many of the young participants are during this week digitally also taking master and PhD courses in the field of Arctic business and governance and global management. And the Heinrich Dialogue Conference is integrated in these activities. This is an innovative way of making it possible for students who are interested in Arctic issues from all around the world to meet with and have dialogues with relevant companies and governmental institutions. At this year's Heinrich Dialogue Conference, some of these dialogues must take place digitally. But I'm sure that you will find the relevant rooms at the platform to be where you find the dialogues with co-students, companies, and other interested parties. We at the North Universities are proud of all our young participants at the High North Dialogue Conference, because we need to hear the voices of the young people to develop the Arctic in a sustainable manner. We want you to use the multiple arenas at this conference to make your perspective heard. North University appreciate very much the innovative way that the High North Dialogue Conference implies in strengthening education and research connected to Arctic issues. This is in fact a natural way of working at the North University, as we are one of Norway's leading research and teaching communities within innovation and entrepreneurship. North University's Strategy 2030 builds on the Norwegian government's and Norwegian Parliament's clear and committed statement that the High North is Norway's most important strategic region. In the strategy of the university, it is very clear that we will strengthen the social and economic research related to High North. And our core areas are blue and green growth, sustainable innovation and entrepreneurship, health, welfare and education, and public security. We are very pleased that the government last November presented a white paper about High North strategy, which describes some of the great possibilities of the North. The strategic area of the North University is well within the possibilities and the challenges described in the white paper. We look forward to further cooperation with private businesses, the public sector, academia nationally and internationally, as well as the government, in developing new knowledge and education in areas that will help us to use the opportunities and to solve the challenges. This region is rich in natural resources and has a fantastic nature to the benefit of the people living here, as well as visitors. North Universities takes responsibility in developing and communicating knowledge connected to society and businesses in the High North. And the High North Dialogue Conference is an important arena for sharing knowledge and discussing important opportunities and challenges. I am looking much forward to these dialogues, and I wish us all a digitally interesting, engaging, and valuable conference. Thank you very much for participating in the conference, and now I'm very happy to ask Professor and Director Frode Mellemvik to guide us into the conference.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, President of the Sami Parliament, Your Excellencies, dear participants. It is really an honor for me to welcome you and to guide you into the High North Dialogue 2021. We have always business in the Arctic as our main topic, but we add each year something below that. And this year, we have added the perspectives of the young people. And let me start with thanking all of you who said yes when we invited you to take part in our dialogues. And to be honest, there were very, very few who did not say yes. So if you would have liked to be in the dialogue and have not been invited, please let me know, and I will make sure that you will be invited next year. We are going to discuss in each panel from the perspectives of the experienced, of those who are experts, together with those who are new in their careers. And in this way, we mix together the very important aspect of exploiting the experience that is in the wisdom that of people who have done a lot of things, with exploiting the ideas that young people have. So I'm looking very much forward to all these dialogues. And let me say that there are many people looking forward to that, we have never had so many participants at the High North Dialogue. We are more than 800 people following the dialogue, and we are from more than 40 countries. And you should know, as the rector said, the average age is quite low, because 60% of the participants are young people. We are very happy that we can do the High North Dialogue, and we are looking forward to that each year. So we were very, very sad last year. But to be able to do such a conference, we need help. And we have supporters, and we have all of you who take part in the dialogue. But we have those who are also sponsoring us financially, and they are also helping us creating the good program for the dialogue. So let me thank Stormen Library. Let me thank the city of Bodø, Nordland County, Equinor, Lukoil, and Innovation Norway, and also those who have participated in the conference committee, both from the Labour Organization Norway and from the Confederation of Norwegian Enterprises, and the Norwegian Fishermen's Association, and the Center for the Ocean and the Arctic. This year's High North Dialogue Conference focuses especially on three topics, or three aspects. That is international cooperation, it is local successes, and Arctic policies. The last day, we will discuss the international cooperation. We will go into the frames of the cooperation. We will talk about the economics of the Arctic. Tomorrow, you should look forward for tomorrow. Tomorrow you will see and hear about the successes, both in the sea food production, in the battery, in also space, and in soccer teams. So tomorrow we focus on that. Is there something we learned from these successes? And then today we will focus on the Arctic strategies. But let me, before I go into the introduction of that panel, say that you will also meet the High North Hero 2020. You will also meet the young entrepreneur of the High North 2020. You will hear about Business Index North, and you will also meet young people working with scenario developments for what is going to happen in the Arctic, in the High North. But today, we will focus on the Arctic policies, and not at least on the Arctic policies of Norway. Right now, the Norwegian Parliament is discussing what should be the Arctic policy of Norway. And I am very happy, and I appreciate much that the Prime Minister of Norway, Erna Solberg, and the leader of the Labour Party, Jonas Gahr Støre, and representatives from the youth panel who has been involved in developing the Arctic strategy of Norway, that they are present. And we are so happy that we have our own editor of the High North News, the chief editor of the High North News. He will be moderating that dialogue. So it's a pleasure for me to welcome Arne Holm to the stage to moderate this panel. And I wish us all a fruitful and an exciting dialogue during these days. Thank you.
So you are washing up after the grown-ups. That is good. What was the hashtag again? We love the host and the moderator, I think. Dear everybody, it's a great pleasure for me to congratulate you with the opening of this year's High North Dialogue. And it's a pleasure for me to introduce you to the first panel among many dialogues going on these days. And what an excellent panel we are starting with today, a panel that shows the national ownership and interest in what is going on in the High North, and not at least the future of the High North. So a very warm welcome again to the Norwegian Prime Minister, Erna Solberg, representing Høyre, Norway's Conservative Party. Very welcome. And of course, also a very warm welcome to her challenger, Jonas Gahr Støre, a former, by, among other titles, Norwegian Foreign Minister, Today the leader and the opponent representing Arbeiderpartiet, the Norwegian Labour Party. And also with me on the stage, you are on the screen, with me on the stage, I have maybe the most important delegates for the future at least. Two young people that has been member of the governmental High North White Paper. That is Nicole Natalia Funes, welcome to you. And Øyvind Johan Olsen, welcome to you as well. Their only title so far is to be students, but wait a few years. They may conquer some of the other guys. I mean, and what a foreplay we had actually, because yesterday, the Norwegian Parliament starting the discussion on the White Paper from the High North. This is the one they have been discussing. And if that wasn't enough, they gave it a new twist today actually. So I have to start with what is future strategic infrastructure planning. I have to talk to Støre and Solberg a little bit about the railway and what we are expecting. I mean, there was a majority in the parliament today that said yes, I think, to build a railway from Fauske, which is not far from where we are standing now, up to Tromsø. So, if you allow, could you please, Jonas Gahr Støre, explain us exactly what was the decision today in this huge investment?
It was a clear manifest. Well, thank you first of all for bringing us on stage. And I think the Prime Minister and I, we are contributing to bringing that average age a bit up. We are both in the 60 generation, but I'm very proud to be among you. So I congratulate you on the conference. Well, today's vote was not a debate on infrastructure investment. It was a debate on the High North strategy. And we believe that the objective of having a continued railroad infrastructure in the north really should be on the agenda. We are in favor of that. We know that getting to the construction of railroad in the north needs proper preparation. You need to go through those different steps that measure what it will take and how it can be done. But today's majority, I think, brings this infrastructure dimension on the Norwegian strategic agenda in a new way. The north of Norway has not really been debated in an innovative way when it comes to transport infrastructure, how we get people around, which is one dimension, but perhaps more importantly, how we get products around. Because this is a region where we now have massive transport of products from the sea, from the oceans. We have tourists coming in. And we are in need of reconsidering how that infrastructure is developed. So we are in favor and have an objective of seeing the railroad expansion in the north. And then we need to bring it into the national transport planning system, which is what we intend to do in the Labour Party.
You said, Mrs. Støre, that this is preparing for a railway. Some of your political colleagues in the other political parties say this is realizing this is going to be a railroad in the north. Do you disagree or do they disagree with you?
No, I just respect that if you are in favor of developing the railroad from Fauske and northwards, I think you make things difficult for such a vision if you just vote and say, let's do it. Because what we need to really consider is what will be potential tracks, what will be the geography, what will be the speed to go there. And I think, infrastructure in the north is well served to be measured in that way. We have a methodology in Norway on how to do that. But we worked on this thoroughly in our High North work in the Labour Party. And at our party conference this weekend, we made it clear that this is an objective we would like really to move towards. And then let's really consider it that important that we really do these important steps of finding out exactly how it will be done. So I think some of those other parties may say we express the same intention, but you don't build a railroad by simply voting for it. You need to prepare it, and you need to set off the money, and you need to measure, and we believe we need to do all of that.
So if I turn to you, Prime Minister Solberg, do you look at this voting in the parliament today like an order to build the railroad in the north?
orders to build a railroad is done when you have finished the planning system of that. What we are doing now, and we started with a mandate in January, where we started to work on a concept study for transportation solutions in northern Norway. And that work will go on until 2023, where you will look at, yes, to build another Norway line, but you will also look at other ways of solving the transportation systems in northern Norway, because a railway is a fixed system from point A to point B. People are scarcely populated in northern Norway. They are living on the islands, they are living on the coastline, they are living into the country, which means that there will be a lot of other things that is the need of the transportation system in northern Norway. And we need a plan for the totality of this, also to look if the train solution is the right solution to solve these problems. Most of the production, for example, for the fisheries, will not be close to any railway line the way it's been planned so far. It will be quite far from it, and that means that you will have to pull the goods in towards the railway. And we know that when you put the salmon on a lorry somewhere, it very often does go over to a railway anyway, because it will be faster to transport it to the ending station on that lorry or in that transportation system. So what we really need is to see all of these things together to find a good solution, not to start by saying, this is what we're going to build and just measure this. We have to look at how do we use the money to make sure that we get the best transportation system, to get the most value creation, get the best living space for people and young people in the future. It might be a railway system, but it might also be other types of systems too, and more roads and other and newer types of transportation systems. And I think that's where we should start. And when I listen to Jonas Støre, I hear that what he really wants to do is to make a concept study. Well, it's on its way. He has started that work. And when you have done that, you can make the choices, and you can also look very thoroughly at where the is going.
I have to dig a little bit deeper into this, because this is an investment or a plan or a suggestion or whatever for the future generation. I mean, if we are lucky, some of us may take the train, but it's a new generation that is going to benefit if somebody benefit from it. So would you say, Erna Solberg, that the decision made in the parliament today, if you are re-elected as a prime minister for the next 4 years, did this decision change anything in what you already have planned concerning the railway?
I think this is a decision on the attention of a majority in Parliament. We will always follow up a majority in Parliament, but we will also say that we have to follow all the rules and guidelines for building infrastructure in Norway, and that is to make concept studies, is to make a thorough planning system, is to make sure that we are evaluating what will benefit the northern Norway transportation system the most. How will we make sure that we do the investments that make sure that we create new jobs, that we create better living conditions for people, that we are not building a large project just because of political status, because this is a principle we have decided, and we decided years back that we should do this. Instead, we should have an open mind. I have an open mind that train might be a solution, but I would like to see the concept study done thoroughly on all of the needs for building a better infrastructure system in northern Norway to make sure that people want to live there, that we have value creation, that we have jobs in the future. And I'm not sure I would say that we should decide on which type of transportation before we decide, is this the best one? What's the alternatives?
One last question to you, Mrs. Støre, on the same issue. You heard what the Prime Minister said, what consequences your decision today will have for the next 4 years. If you are elected as Prime Minister or make a government for the next 4 years, will that differ from what you just heard?
If you go into our program, Arne, and see what we voted, I mean, we put our own proposal today in Parliament, and then we found that...
I'm still talking about the railway. Sorry, Støre.
Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. But we found that the proposal we put on the railroad was to describe how in not this national transport plan, which we will debate in a few weeks in Parliament, but in the next national transport plan, the necessary work should be done to prepare for the railroad in the north. That's what we said. Now, the other parties put a more bolder proposal saying we are in favor of starting the work on the railroad in the north. Fine, we can vote on that in Parliament today. This was not a debate about money. This was not a debate about exact distance. This was not a debate about techniques to do that and sequence to do it. But I think sometimes, you need in Parliament to express a clear intention, a clear desire and a will. And I believe, with those parties, we would be really enthusiastic to go into that work in the next period, so that the transport plan, which will be debated, in 24, 25, could have the proper material to make the right decisions.
I can see that the Prime Minister really want to say something more here on that quote, but I will go to our friends here in Bodø on the same issue. So, Nicole, Natalia, you have heard kind of a discussion. Do you know whether you will see a railroad in the north, but based on what you heard now, as long as you live?
It sounds quite unsure, really, but I think it's important to do the proper evaluations and the case studies, like they talk about. And then I think that politics is about prioritizing. And I perhaps think that there's a need to prioritize other things, like ferries, roads, public transportation. I would start with prioritizing that before this railway, I think.
Okay, what about you, Eivind? I don't expect that any of you talk on behalf of all the youth, of course. You have to talk on behalf of yourself. But Eivind, what do you think about the railway?
I really agree to what Nicole says. It's about a lot of money, and I think it's smart to prioritizing the transportation near where people live first, like boats, railway, roads, and the transportation that we who lives in the north of Norway are using in our daily lives.
So what you both are saying actually is that when you hang around with your friend, if you remember when you hanged out with your friend some year ago, the railways is not what you actually discuss, Nicole, Natalia.
No, we talk about how expensive the bus tickets are. They cost a lot of money, and if we want people to take more public transportation like bus, then those tickets should be cheaper. So I would start with the public transportation.
Same with you, friend Eivind?
Yeah. We're talking about the expensive buses and the boats who doesn't work.
Actually, the more basic things in life living in the north. Okay, that's so much for the railway. Maybe we will get back to it, but if we then turn back to what happened in the Parliament yesterday, there was a broad discussion on the, as I told you, the White Paper about the government's analyzing and plans for the High North. And it was a kind of disagreement, I will say. It was a lot of fluffy thoughts, was some concretes. So I would like to ask you, Prime Minister Solberg, try to formulate this way. If you look into the crystal ball, and I don't want you to look any further than the next period, that is 4.5 years ahead, what kind of changes would have happened in the North so that you could say that your High North strategy was well functioning and a good strategy? We are talking the next period. Could you say something about that?
Yes, I can. I can say, of course, there's a lot of single issues, a lot of programs, a lot of measures that is been put in place in this year's budget as a follow-up on our white paper that we presented last autumn, but also, of course, the whole sphere of politics, which I think is important. I think one of the really, if any of us managed to think of the time before the pandemic, the situation in north of Norway was that the biggest challenge was lack of labor, lack of people who were qualified for the jobs that was created. And there has been a lot of jobs created the last years in northern Norway. This will continue because there's entrepreneurship. We are putting up more capital through funds available for those who want to start out creating new jobs. But we also need to work at the educational system to make sure that we both are educating young people for the jobs that are created, but also to become more entrepreneur-like. And we have to do more on making sure that people who are older than those who are students today also are getting lifelong skills, that they are going back to school to re-qualify, because there is a mismatch between the qualification and skills people have and the jobs that are created. That is one of the areas. So I believe that we will continue a situation like we've had the last 5-6 years, where the economic pulse and the economic strength is increasingly in the north part of Norway because of its resources, because of what it delivers on innovation and new businesses. But we do need to work on this mismatch between labor market qualifications and the jobs created. And I think this is one of the big challenges, which I think we are going to, with our policies, we are going to put even more emphasis on the educational system to make sure of that. Then we are putting more capital into entrepreneurship, and we are strengthening the universities in the north to make sure that they also can fulfill their job of educating young people and making sure that they are qualified for the labor market in the north. And this is some of the if you see long lines in what we have been doing since we decided that Arctic strategies could not only be about the Arctic outside northern Norway, it had to be a strategy about people living in the north. 9% of the Norwegian population live in the Arctic. It's the only country in the world that has such a large part of our people living in this in the Arctic area. And I think we have to continue to work on that, but we have to look at what we need to match better, which is education and work, and even increase interesting work for young people.
If we try to put a kind of measurement on the goals, I mean, you are mentioned that we are only 9% of the people, and that is decreasing. We are getting fewer and fewer and older and older. Would you say that to succeed in your high north politics, do you need a change in the demographic development, or can that continue and you still call it a success?
No, I think we need a change in the demographic composition in the north. We need to make sure that young people don't move from the north to the south because there are more interesting jobs in the north. That's why we also have established more jobs. That's why we are developing the universities. That's why we are trying to make sure that there also is interesting jobs in the private sector. The second thing we have to do is to also discuss the numbers, why the numbers are falling. And the numbers are falling. Among the reasons for that is that there is fewer refugees, fewer asylum seekers coming to Norway. For a long time, they were distributed over the whole country. What we have seen also is that labor migrants have stayed for a period in the north, then they have moved more south or back home to their own country, which is, we have to have strategies to make sure that people are staying. We have to have better integration strategies in the municipalities in the north to keep people who are settling, to keep them staying in the north, not just moving after a couple of years.
Okay, thank you. And I turn back to you, Jonas, for a minute. And I formulated the same question in a little different way, because you launched, or at least relaunched, the High North politics back in 2005. And what have you seen changed since then? What is the challenges for the next 4 years?
Well, what we said in 2005 was that knowledge and skills is the base we have to invest in, because from there is what everything else will flow from there. And I will make two broad remarks here, Arne. First, we have two fine universities in the north, Tromsø and Bodø. When Tromsø came about in the 60s, many people said that was, they talked about that as not being a wise investment. I don't compare it to the railroad, but the way people spoke about university in Tromsø was really almost in the same terms. But that university came, and it became extremely important for that part of Norway. Now, I was very proud to be part of a government to see a new university come about in Bodø. And what you have been able to do around High North and everything coming out of that, I think is extremely important. So the question is, I would like to see a clearer expectation and investment in what these universities can do in terms of driving knowledge. And that means that they should have explicit tasks in taking High North policies forward, ranging from science, High North science, the species in the oceans, the natural resources, everything we can do to increase sustainable development of these resources and products, and also be driving forces in what I believe we need in the North and in Norway in general, which is a push for decentralized education. Too many people have to travel too far to reach higher education. And one result and side effect is that they don't move back again. People should be free to decide where they would like to live and work. But obviously with technology now, as we can have this High North dialogue, we sit in Oslo, you are there, people are in from the rest of the world, we can do much more. So I would like to formulate very clear expectations in collaboration with those two universities. Then I believe that a lot of what we need to do to reach our climate goals resides in the north, really, because it's about how we can explore our energy resources with lower emissions. It's about how we can make new energy resources such as hydrogen available for our fleet and for our shipping. And for there, I believe we need, an industrial policy of government which is more working closely with national business and international business to formulate these goals. And in order to make breakthroughs in these technologies, I think, the state has to do more than only a regulator. It also has to be a provider of strong incentives to make these steps in cutting emissions and taking these new technology, making them available. That's what is happening now in the US. It's happening in Europe. And we have, as the Prime Ministers rightly say, it is really in the north of Norway that people really live. So it means that everything is served on the High North table, but we have to work on the dishes, to make them really notable. And my third point, which I really would like to mention, is that what we do in the north of Norway can set the trend for the rest of the world in the Arctic. I think we can really keep the position of setting the agenda in the north. We can have an advance on formulating ideas that other countries will turn to. We are a small country, but no country has so much skills, knowledge available. But we need more capital. We need more concrete objectives to reach together. And I really think the High North agenda is the most, almost the most exciting agenda we have in Norway in the 1920s, in the 2020s. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. This is a part of Arctic where most people live, at least some of us. So let's turn to you, Nicole, Natalia. You here, they want people to live here, and you are still here as a student at Nord University now. What kind of challenges, what kind of possibilities do you need to continue to live in the north? How can we keep you here?
I live here because I study here and because I work here. And that's the reason to why I choose to stay and would like to stay in the future. But besides of work and education, I think that it's important to have cultural offers, such as this wonderful library. I think it's important to have meeting places for young people, to have somewhere to spend your time besides of work and education, something to live for. And I think that's the reason to why perhaps many people at my age choose to study in Oslo, Bergen, Trondheim, and so on, because they are attracted to the city life. So I don't think we should copy the cities, the bigger cities, but I think we should get some inspiration and see what they do in terms of meeting places for people, such as I think that cafes, bars, like libraries are important to make people, for the well-being of students and young people.
So if I understand you right, because Solberg and Støre, they are talking about creating more jobs. As far as I know, we have no unemployment in a northern part of Norway. You are talking about getting more people to a social life, a cultural life as the most important thing. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. You have to do something besides of work.
What about you, Øyvind? You are in the high school. What are your plans for the future?
I'm working in the culture in Bodø, and I hope to do that in the future too. But I am convinced about that jobs and education is only a part of the solution. I agree to what Nicole says about culture, because I think culture could be important to making a reason to stay here because of it's building our identity, it's meaningful,
So what's wrong with you guys? I mean, you don't want a railroad. I mean, you have enough jobs. We're talking about social life and cultural life. Anna Solberg, what is wrong with these guys?
There's nothing wrong with them. They are just whole people, understanding that that life is more than a secure job, and that you really need to do something else. And I think what they are saying is the same as the strong message from the youth panel that we established to work on our white paper on the Arctic strategies was in fact that you need to have more than work. You need to have a social life, and you need to make sure that. And I think this is what we have to acknowledge, that urbanization is about the fact that especially young people would like to be in a little bit bigger audiences, participate in other parts of life. And I believe that that's why you also will see that the cities in the northern part of Norway will grow stronger, but there will also be possibilities for those who want to live further away, who want to be at their home place, because we can reach out in different ways. And we have to make sure that this is accessible to people. So I have a very strong understanding that you need something more. We would like people to go out in the world. We are addressing the fact that everybody who goes to university should study in another country also during their period as a student, to get more internationalized, to make sure that they have that type of thoughts and have felt this. But they should go back with those that knowledge and that new understanding. And I think this is possible to get both ways. And I think we have to remember that there are more to living than just a job or great nature, but also to understand, why do people who are not from northern part of Norway move to the northern part of Norway? Why are we attractive to people who come from other countries? In fact, that's the silence, the peace. There are not so many people, not so crowded areas. And that's one of the attractiveness also, to make sure that we get the competence, that we get even stronger internationalization of the northern part of Norway, because there's a lot of people who would like to live 1, 2, maybe the rest of their life in the north of Norway, if we really manage to push the idea that you can combine culture and nature and you have a safe and interesting job.
Øyvind, you wanted to reply on that, is that right?
Yeah. I agree to that, and I'm convinced about using money at culture is the same as using money at the future, and that's because of culture is making an attractive society. And to get a job, you can do that normally all over the world. So it have to be something more, so people live here.
Do you think that there is put more money into culture in other parts of Norway than in this part of Norway?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's important also in Northern Norway to use money and culture.
You have one skill you have to learn. You have two short answers compared with these guys in the television. But it's time to learn. Støre, what can the Labour Party offer to Nicole and Eivind besides jobs?
Well, I mean, I think we are perfectly aware, and young people and mid-aged people and older people, I think they live for more than being breadwinners. You know, culture is important, and we have emphasized and given high priority to that also in the program we have voted for the next years. And the fact that Bodø will be European Cultural City in 2024 is a fantastic opportunity. I mean, imagine what we can do during that year of attracting people from all around the world to come to Norway. We can use the attractiveness of our culture in the north to also set other agendas and really use culture as a binding device to get people together. But let me say that as I see it in the north, you have this combination of cities and you have more sparse population, and people actually, you know, are attracted to both. And people may want to move to that kind of life from inside Norway and also from outside Norway. But one important thing then is that you need to feel that you are safe where you move, that your health is safe, that if something happens to you, you can be picked up by the emergency services, and that, you know, that there is a job not only for you but also for your partner. So these things are linked together. And I think that in recent years, as you said, Arne, population is going down. We have been in the debate, you and I, on that recently, and it's a big theme. It's not a quick fix, but if we go to us as people, and I think our young colleagues here express it very well, we need to find something which combines work with pleasure and culture and noise and silence. All of that is important for a rich life. And I find that, you know, some of the most vibrant local communities we have in Norway really are in the north. And just look about it now that we go on vacation and we don't go abroad because of COVID. Where do we go? I mean, I went north of Bodø to celebrate my 60th birthday with my family, because that was I was actually advised by the mayor of Bodø. But, you know, look at people going to Lofoten. Look at the way we, you know, seek the north. So the opportunities here are great, and I think that this combination of not only looking at the economics of it, but also at the cultural and pleasure parts of it is really important.
Thank you so far, and I think we're going to change the topic a little bit again and turn into one of the things we are pretty alone among other Norwegians is that we are living close to a border to a big neighbor called Russia. It's quite different than living in Inland and have Sweden as the closest neighbor, at least these days. And all can see, even with our eyes, that the military expansion is going on. I've been traveling myself for a couple of months along the border between Norway and Russia. And you can really feel the tension, and you can read it in the newspaper every day. You see it in the news, you see it in television. So I will start with you, Nicole Natalia. You even have a Russian background, actually. How do you feel about the military situation, the security situation these days?
I would like it to be better than it is today, because for me, it is important that I can visit my family in Russia in the future too. I have Russian citizenship, and I would like to have the opportunity to perhaps study in Russia one day, but also to visit my family. So I think it's a shame that our relationship is so bad when we are neighbors. Yeah.
What about you, Eivind? Do you think about this often the situation when you read about it, see it on television and everything?
Yeah, I think for many youths it's maybe a bit scary. And I think information about what is really happening in the north is important for youths. And I think that's too bad today. Information about how is really the situation in the relationship to Russia, for example.
So as you can hear, Solberg, they are scared, and they are probably not alone to be scared and about what's going on. Do you understand it?
I understand that what we have seen the last, I would say, 7 years, especially after the annexation of Crimea and the situation in Ukraine, but it started even before that. You have seen a much more assertive Russia pushing its ambitions stronger internationally, and Norway is placed where we are. We are placed as a part of the gateway into the Murmansk area, to the largest naval fleet in the Atlantic. It's a placement that you can't do. It's about geography. We can't change that. So that's why I believe it's so important that we are part of the NATO alliance. That's why it's so important that we both try to work hard. No more. I just have a problem with my television. Just a minute. We have to work with that, with Russia on all of those issues that we try to keep low tension on, which we are doing on safety issues, on health issues in the north, that we are doing on fishery policies. At the same time, we have to be very clear that we can't accept violations of international law, and that we also have to have a military capacity and an alliance that creates deterrence towards Russia, that we are lifting the level of what could happen in a specific situation. But I understand that I'm a product of the Cold War. I think Jonas and he is half a year older than me, in fact. But we are both product of the time where you had the wall passing through Europe. We had the blessing of seeing that wall being teared down, and totally different Europe for 15, 20 years, where there was a lot of positivism, but it has changed the last years. And I hope we can get back to the 1990s, early 2000s, where there are a totally different level of cooperation between the West and the East in Europe, that Russia and all European countries can work closer together, that we can get people-to-people work that are functioning much better. But we do have to take care of our core business and make sure that with our geographical placement that we are strong enough.
One of the difference between the Cold War area we were talking about and today is that you have, in a way, added China to the list of possible enemies in the future. Again, do you understand that they feel some fear here, living in the north?
Well, I believe that Russia is not an enemy. I don't believe China is an enemy, but we shouldn't be naive, because on some issues they are spying on us. They are trying to find out what we know. They want technology. We see that in the cyber attacks that we both can see comes from Russia and sometimes from China. We see that they are, but we have to try to find a balance of cooperation, because there's so many issues in this world which we need all countries in the world to participate in. The Paris Agreement is one of them. But there's so many other of the Sustainable Development Goals that should be reached by all countries working together. So I hope that we can get a different balance and not look upon other countries as our enemies. But we have to make sure that we are not naive, and we have to take precautions.
And Støre, as a former foreign minister, normally Norway had a tradition on agreement of security policy and foreign policy, at least among the two major parties like the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. Is that still the situation, Støre?
Yes. And the world around knows that Norway has a broad consensus on the main lines of our security, and I agree with the Prime Minister. We don't choose our geography; it's a given, and we tackle our demography in a way which I think people really respect in the world. And in relation to Russia, I think, we are no threat to Russia. We seek every opportunity to cooperate with Russia and deal with issues of common interest when that is possible. When it's not possible, we keep our integrity by behaving and waiting to see the opportunity arise. I experienced that as a foreign minister. We had negotiated with Russia for 40 years to settle the dispute on the border in the Arctic Sea and Barents Sea. And I was very clear, we will wait for another 40 years, if that is necessary, in order to do it the right way. Now it happened on our watch that the opportunity really came, that we could sit down in trust and agree on an agreement which was really not politically manipulated or decided by force. It was 170,000 square kilometers out in the ocean, divided in two according to the most modern criteria that you have. So that is Norway, what we are ready to do. We are ready to work on fisheries, on energy, on environment, on transport in the north. And I think, these challenges we have with Russia in the north, they don't come from the north. They come from other tensions, like Ukraine, like geopolitical competition. And Norway has lived with that during the Cold War. I don't like to see myself as a product of the Cold War. I think, we are also products of what we could do after the Cold War. But I think it's important that agreement, the main pillars of our security policy, is a very important capital in the security field for a country like Norway.
Come on, Nicole, Natalia, please.
I think that in the context of our neighbor relations, culture is also important. And I think that student and pupils exchange, we have sister cities in Russia. I think that's a really good instrument for better cooperation and better understanding. I think that if people at a young age see each other and exchange, perhaps they will learn that we are all the same. We are all youth and young people, and perhaps that will create a better relationship in the future between these countries.
Can I say a word on that, Arne? Because I think Nicole is absolutely right. Remember, when this border opened up in 1989, 1990, we had 2,000 or 3,000 people crossing that border at Kirkenes. And a few years later, we were 200,000, 300,000. But I have also always said that our vision for our neighbor relations should be like we have with other neighbors, Sweden and Finland. And then some people will say, well, that is naive, Russia is different. And I agree, Russia is different. But that has to be our vision. We would like to deal with them in a normal, regular way as neighbors. And we have done a lot. People can now, or they could, travel more freely. You could go shopping in Nikel and Murmansk, and you could have relations. And you at the High North Center in Bodø have had so many students from Russia and exchange. That is good. But, this is also depending on the situation for civil society in Russia. I mean, a lot of our partners in Murmansk and on the Kola Peninsula, in our bordering regions, they are, taken away. And they are prohibited from doing exchange with Norwegian sister organizations. So that is also a great challenge in a Russia which is not yet a democracy and not yet ruled by the rule of law. And that is a challenge.
Last topic, very shortly actually. We have talked about the rapid change in demography. We have talked about the rapid change in military expansion. And we also see, people living in the north at least, a rapid change in the climate. And further north you go, it's easier to see. So if you could make it short, Solberg, what in this white paper would change the climate?
Well, I don't think it's that white paper that will change the climate. I think it's the white paper we produced on the climate measures that we are taking to cut carbon emission in Norway. But I believe that there are very good parts of our northern policy that is important. For example, the fact that we have established the Center for Oceans and the Arctic, the fact that we are working on, we have established in Solberg and outside there a center that is also working on marine pollution, on control, that we are using the knowledge from the north because of the very the more challenges in the nature that there are, that we have to use that even more. But I think what we really have to do and work even harder on in the future is to make the big coalitions. And I hope that on Friday this week, there will be more coalitions, because then the US is back with its own targets again, with a high level meeting on climate that President Biden has invited to. And we hope that that will be the starting point for really doing something about the climate change.
Støre, on the climate issue.
Well, I mean, the effects are known harder and tougher the further north you go. So plus 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees means more the more north you go. So it is quite dramatic. And I agree that the solutions have to be global. We have to be very active in international cooperation to push. But I happen to believe, you know, that Norway has great opportunities here. Because what we may do on energy, first of all, we can produce oil and gas still with going down to zero emissions, and we can capture and store the CO2. If we succeed with that, it will not change the global result, but if others will start to use that technology, then we may come close. And likewise, with ocean wind and with hydrogen and these new sources, we can really come far. And a lot of these issues will be determined in the north. So I think, you know, we have an opportunity here to reach our objectives. That is what Norway has to do. I think there is no disagreement. We have to come there. There is no more pushing of those limits, but we can do it in a way that really can also inspire the rest of the world. And I think that is very challenging and inspiring, not least for fine universities like the one we are at right now.
We have learned, Nicole, Natalie, and Eivind, that you are the generation who are going to turn around the demographic curve. You are the future to make younger people stay in the north. We have heard that you are the people who are going to make peace again because you have a different way of cooperating cross-border. Do you believe my generation, together with these on the screen, will be able to save the climate for you?
I think if we do it in cooperation, yeah. I think if the politicians listen to the youth, then perhaps so. And we know that climate change is already happening. We see it all around us, especially in the north. We see that the seasons are changing and so on. And we know that if the ocean is going to rise 1 meter, then about 150 million refugees will be in the run and in the need of a new home. And last year, the High Commissioner on Refugees in the UN stated that the world has to prepare for creating new homes for these refugees. So I wonder, is Norway going to make a plan for how to handle climate refugees?
Come on, Solberg, a short answer to that, please.
What we are trying to do is to prevent climate refugees. That's our biggest mission. That's why when we enter the Security Council, conflict resolution and the concept of how climate change will affect conflicts is one of the issues that we want to bring to the table in the Security Council, as one of the issues that we are working on in also as part of our work in a lot of other international areas, because we know that changes in climate leads to more conflicts, leads to more refugees. So if we can manage to turn this away so that you don't get the conflicts, you don't get the refugees, but you in fact can stabilize the situation better, it's also easier to do something. We have to do something about the emissions, but we also have to do something about making sure that we have a world that is more resilient for some of the changes, because some of the changes are going so rapidly that we have to be more resilient against them. And that means that we have to strengthen local communities in vulnerable areas of the world. So I think that's our main strategy of trying to deal with refugees based on the.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Just because I'm curious for the history book, I have to ask you two guys a question. Have you ever before had a dialogue one-on-one between you two on English, in English?
I don't think so. It doesn't really feel natural.
But I think, you know, we know each other, we respect each other, and I think both of us are very proud to be in this international setting at North University with these two young people and people listening in from the outside. This is great. We can do it in English. It's fine.
It's good, and that's for the history books actually that we could bring you together in English. I have to close it now. I have to say thank you very much, Erna, Solberg, and Jonas, Gahr, Støre, for being together with us this afternoon in Bodø, and not at least thank you to Nicole, Natalia Funes, and Øyvind Johan Olsen for participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Arne, for excellently guiding us through this very first session here. I think we can definitely say we do not only love the host, but we also love the moderator. So thank you very much, Arne. We'll now take a quick 5 minutes break, which we need to actually set up the stage for the next session. So 5 minutes break, get a coffee, fix your hair, and be back in 5 minutes.